It all kicked off on a Monday, the kind of day that always feels cursed for trash pickup in our HOA place where minor infractions are treated like high treason. When I stepped outside, both of my bright blue, city-issued trash bins were gone. Poof. Vanished. At first, I figured the waste management crew might have grabbed them by mistake, but then I spotted the real clue, a passive-aggressive note taped to my garage door. Written in loopy cursive, it threw around phrases like community standards, unsightly placement, and consideration for your neighbors. No signature, just the faint whiff of rose-scented hand cream and pure entitlement. I had a hunch it was Susan, the HOA president and self-appointed guardian of neighborhood perfection. She'd once left a warning on my car for excessively dusty hubcaps. Over the past year, Susan had made it her mission to micromanage our block like it was a royal estate. Warning letters for wind chimes, complaints about lawn gnomes being visually disruptive, even demands that kids' sidewalk chalk stick to approved muted tones. I knocked on a few neighbors' doors to check if someone had borrowed my bins for, say, an emergency cleanup. No dice. But I got a tip from Mike, my neighbor with a Ring camera obsession and a knack for recording everything from mail carriers to stray cats. Mike pulled up the footage and there it was, 6:17 a.m., Susan shuffling up my driveway in a paisley robe and mismatched flip-flops, dragging both my bins down the street like she was on a DIY quest. No stealth, no shame, just peak HOA nerve. I marched to her house 5 doors down, feeling like I was crossing into hostile territory. Sure enough, she had 3 bins, now 2 blue ones tucked beside her garage and her green recycling one. When I knocked, she answered with a smile so fake it could have been plastic. "Oh, those bins," she chirped, like I'd asked about her favorite smoothie recipe. The HOA approved a new bin alignment protocol for Sewell Harmony. Yours were an eyesore, so I relocated them. She handed me a laminated memo titled Trash Optimization for Neighborhood Elegance, which I later learned she'd whipped up on Canva during a coffee-fueled power trip. "File an appeal at the next HOA meeting," she added, adjusting her headband like she was umpiring a country club match. I went home empty-handed, steaming and already scheming. She didn't even bother lying, that's what stung. It wasn't theft. It was arrogance. The smug way she bent rules to fit her bizarre vision of suburban utopia. Worse, our actual HOA president, Mr. Thompson, was off on a month-long Caribbean cruise, leaving Susan with unchecked power and way too much time. That week she went harder, citing neighbors for mailbox scratches and measuring lawns with a ruler like it was a holy ritual. I watched her hold a solo emergency HOA meeting on her front yard, complete with 3 folding chairs and a whistle she blew for attention. Mike and I started texting, our messages escalating from "she's lost it" to "we've got to take her down," Ocean's 11 style. First, though, I needed my bins back, or at least to make Susan regret touching them. That's when it hit me. If she wanted a trash war, I'd give her one she'd never forget. I started researching homemade stink bombs, not the kid stuff, but the kind that could make a landfill weep, and hatched a plan involving science, timing, and a pile of rotten eggs. But before I could roll it out, things got weirder. Susan's next target? My lawn. I'd kept it pristine with perfectly timed sprinklers because, unlike her, I didn't water at noon like a maniac. It started subtly, her pacing by my yard during her 6 a.m. patrols, clipboard in hand, eyeing my grass like it owed her rent. Then came the first violation notice, hand-delivered in an envelope with a silver sticker screaming, HOA priority. It claimed my lawn was 1.75 inches tall instead of the regulated 1.5. I nearly spat out my coffee. Who measures grass to the quarter-inch unless they're prepping for the Lawn Olympics? But it didn't stop there. The next day, another notice accused me of planting non-native flora because I'd added daisies to my walkway, apparently not on Susan's sacred color chart. She included a printed approved plant list that looked like it was written by a grumpy botanist in a cubicle. "Your garden rocks clash with seasonal tones," read the next complaint, as if rocks could commit fashion crimes. Meanwhile, her yard was a chaotic mix of fake grass, plastic turtles, and solar lights shaped like disco balls. I tried reasoning with her big mistake. I caught her in her driveway, calmly explained her violations were nonsense, and she smirked. "Some of us value standards, dear. If you want chaos, move downtown." Then she spun around like a low-budget MOUI lane. That night, Mike texted me a screenshot from Susan's public HOA Facebook group, where she'd posted, "One resident is resisting beautification efforts. We must stay vigilant." A lawn reflects one's character. Her fan club of rule-obsessed sissies, plural, called me that defiant neighbor and suggested aesthetic retraining. Then I noticed tiny flags popping up on my lawn, red and orange, like utility markers. The city had no record of scheduled work. Susan was planting them to make it look like I was under investigation. Petty? Try psychological lawn warfare. It wasn't just bins or grass anymore. Susan was running a suburban dictatorship with HOA letterhead as her sword and paranoia as her fuel. Things escalated when she blocked my sprinkler slot in the neighborhood's shared irrigation calendar, which existed only in her mind and a spreadsheet she controlled like a war room. She claimed I was hogging prime watering hours. The final straw? She reported me to the HOA Bordaka herself for hostile lawn alignment, saying my grass leaned aggressively toward her property. Mike and I had to reread that one twice. That's when I knew there was no reasoning with her. Susan wanted total control, and she was coming for my sanity one absurd citation at a time. But while she invented rules, I was perfecting my stink bomb recipe. By Thursday, I'd committed to the plan. No more warnings, no more playing nice. It was time for the most noxious, semi-legal counterattack possible, a stink bomb so violent it'd make a dumpster cry. I dove into YouTube tutorials, chemistry blogs, and Reddit threads with titles like, How to Craft a Smell That Breaks Spirits. The winning mix? Rotten eggs, expired yogurt, a splash of fish oil, and a hint of liquid smoke for that burning tire, VYB. I sealed the brew in double-layered Ziploc bags, wrapped them in old newspapers, tied them with zip ties, and stuffed them into a decoy trash bag labeled Yard Westito Not Touch. The real trick was planting them in Susan's stolen bins without getting caught. Enter Mike, armed with a tactical flashlight, old hunting binoculars, and a thermos of energy drink. We turned into suburban ninjas. At 2:12 a.m., when Susan's motion lights timed out, I crept down the sidewalk in a dark hoodie and gloves, looking like a raccoon with a grudge. Mike whispered, "Go, go," from behind a shrub as I pried open her bins and slipped the stink bombs inside like I was mailing a curse. I hit all 3 bins, then we sprinted back to my place, where Mike replayed the ring footage like it was a heist movie. The next morning was pure chaos. It started with Susan's scream drill piercing, the sound of suburban order collapsing. She stumbled out of her garage, gagging, vying a violation notice like a white flag, tripping over her own welcome mat. She tried hosing the bins, but the smell only got worse, like wet gym socks in a microwave. Her turtle ornaments seemed to lean away in disgust. At one point she called 911, telling 4,000 character limit reached.